Pastor Stephen Zeier.
Wow, thank you guys. So glad that you're here. Hey, I want to tell you a story, okay? Last year, I spent a ton of time researching something that I was convinced was going to change my life. It was going to make me a better husband, a better father, a better pastor, and I went down this deep bunny trail of all the information about it, and I was convinced, and I told my wife, babe, the thing I have been looking for is a cold plunge. I knew that if I had my very own cold plunge at my house, it was going to change who I was. All of the science, the fact that it was going to warm me up in the morning, that I was going to have to breathe deep. It was like Jesus was going to be in this pool with me every day as I sat in sub 40-degree temperatures. I knew I would be a different human being if I could just get a cold plunge. And then I told her, apparently being in cold water burns fat better than exercise, so I will have a six-pack when I do the cold plunge. It's gonna happen. I'm still waiting for the results, but I was convinced that this was the breakthrough I was looking for in my everyday life. And my wife, because she loves me and wants to show me that I am wrong, bought me a cold plunge for my birthday last year. And I was excited about this thing. I pumped it up because it's inflatable. I filled it with water. I went to North San Jose. I filled up ice from their ice machine because it's bigger than ours. And I got in that thing. And I tell you, the 3 days in a row I did it, I felt amazed by the results. I invited my friends, their kids. We had cold plunge party moments at my house. And then I had to clean it. And then I had to freeze more ice, and I had to keep doing it. And eventually this thing that I thought was going to change my life, make me a better human being, is currently sitting on my side yard collecting spiders and rain from this past week. I think that we have a picture of it. There it is, okay? Now, I might bring it back. I'm just saying. But right now, this thing that I thought was going to change my life is now a nuisance on the side of my house. And I wonder if you can all relate to this. Maybe for you, it's not a cold plunge, but for you, it was your career. You were convinced that when you found the perfect job, everything in life was going to be different. You were going to feel fully satisfied for the first time in a long time. But you've changed careers multiple times, and it still isn't enough. Maybe for you, it's in the area of connection and relationships. You've been longing for that person, that one. So you've spent so much time on dating apps, building your profile, swiping right and left, and waiting for that perfect person, but you still feel lonely and isolated. Maybe for you, it's in the area of finances. You knew that if I could hit a certain income threshold level, it was all going to change. And even though you've passed it, you still feel empty and alone. See, no matter who you are, we all understand this pursuit of happiness. And we also understand the disappointment and lack of satisfaction when we never achieve it. Throughout this series, we have been exploring the tension between what is real and what can simply be generated through a prompt. Our lives are bombarded with this narrative powered by algorithms that leave us questioning whether or not we are hitting the mark. It's extremely overwhelming. But the reality is this is not a new concept. This desire to find true fulfillment, meaning, and purpose has been plaguing the entire world for thousands of generations. There are people on every sphere of power, income, and whatever dynamic you want that have been searching for this. Today, we're going to look at a man who struggled deeply with this desire for meaning. His name is Solomon. Solomon was Israel's king for 40 years. He has a pretty impressive resume and a lot of accomplishments under his belt. Let's take a look at it in 1 Kings chapter 4. It says, God gave Solomon very great wisdom and understanding, and knowledge as vast as the sands on the seashore. In fact, his wisdom exceeded that of all the wise men of the East and the wise men of Egypt. He was wiser than anyone else, including all of these people that I can't pronounce their names of. His fame spread throughout all the surrounding nations. He composed some 3,000 proverbs, wrote 1,005 songs. He could speak with authority about all kinds of plants, from the great cedar of Lebanon to the tiny hyssop that grows from the cracks in a wall. He could also speak about the animals, the birds, the creatures, and the fish. And kings from every nation sent their ambassadors to listen to the wisdom of Solomon. He was clearly an impressive dude. And I was trying to figure out, like, how could I relate it to somebody today? And the more and more I did it, I realized there's no one person that's going to be able to fill who Solomon is. And so I thought, we have a lot of engineers here at Sunnyvale. Maybe if I do a formula, it will help you. And so I thought, what if I combined the brains and the rich aspects of Elon Musk with the organizational and the understanding of how to run and structure things of Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Google, and the good looks and the wisdom of our lead pastor, Felipe Santos, it would still fall short of King Solomon. Okay? Maybe if it was my face instead of Felipe, it might be equal. No, I'm just kidding. He always does the digs at me. I got to bring him back, you know? He's not here to defend himself, but if you're new here, he's one of my best friends. I actually love him. Now, despite Solomon's wisdom, his wealth, his power, his fame, he had some extremely big pitfalls that led him down a path of destruction for many years. He documented it in a book in the Bible called Ecclesiastes. Now, Ecclesiastes is a unique book in the Bible. And whenever we read the Bible, we always want to have the overarching context of what's happening, because Ecclesiastes is more like a journal of Solomon. It's his raw emotions, his thoughts, his frustrations that he's expressing. And it's so raw and so unconventional that the early Jews, or the Jews and the early Christians, debated whether or not they should put it in the Bible. Because if you just read it at face value, it's very easily misinterpreted, because he can say one thing that contradicts it in the next. And if you read it out of context, it can make no sense, but it can also be very dangerous. You know, there are some people who, when they open up their Bible, they're like, Lord, just show me my purpose. Just speak to me wherever it falls today, as I know. And they open to Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 8, and it says, everything is meaningless, completely meaningless. Well, that's depressing. Guess I'm going to go to work now, you know, like. But through Solomon's raw honesty about his frustrations, if you can see it from the right perspective and you can balance it with the conclusions that he lands at, you can actually realize this book is powerful, and it opens our eyes to something that is really beautiful. Now, at the beginning of chapter 2 of the book of Ecclesiastes, Solomon says, I have decided I'm going to pursue every pleasure under the sun. I will not hold back one thing. So he built massive homes, planted unbelievable gardens, ate the best food, had sex with whoever he wanted to have sex with, and he still got to this point where he felt unsatisfied. Listen to what happens in chapter 2, starting in verse 17. So I came to hate life, because everything done here under the sun is so troubling. Everything is meaningless, like chasing the wind. I came to hate all my hard work here on earth, for I must leave everything I have to others who have not earned it. And who can I tell whether my successors will be wise or foolish? Yet they will control everything I have gained by my skill and my hard work under the sun. How meaningless. So I gave up in despair, questioning the value of all of my hard work in this world. See, some people, they work wisely with knowledge and skill, and then they must leave the fruit of their efforts to someone else, someone who hasn't worked for it. This too is meaningless, a great tragedy. So what do people get in this life for all their hard work and anxiety? Their labor is filled with pain and grief. They can't even sleep at night. Their minds never rest. It's all meaningless. So I decided there's nothing better than to enjoy food and drink and to find satisfaction in work. And then I realized these pleasures, They are from the hand of God. For who can eat or enjoy anything apart from him? See, God gives wisdom, knowledge, and joy to those who please him. But if a sinner becomes wealthy, God will take the wealth away and give it to someone who pleases him. This too is meaningless, like chasing the wind. Aren't you glad you came to church today? That's it. You guys can go home. No, I'm just... there's a lot going on in this passage, and I want to point out there's two separate times he says, like chasing the wind. This concept of running after something you can't see, you might be able to hear, you don't know which direction it's going. But throughout the book of Ecclesiastes, he says this 9 different times. He connected it to the pursuit of wisdom, of wealth, of pleasure, of work. He strongly expresses his disdain for this in the opening verse. I came to hate my life because everything I have done under the sun is so troubling. It's meaningless like chasing the wind. This affects Christians and non-Christians. You might be here today and you totally understand what Solomon is trying to do because you are looking for meaning. That's maybe the whole reason you're here, trying to figure out, is there something here that might be able to fulfill me? You might be here and consider yourself a follower of Jesus, but after years of following Jesus, you still feel like there's something that's missing. You are searching for true fulfillment. And I hope that at the end of today, you will realize the thing that you are chasing can only be found through Jesus. See, you might be here because for you, you were placing your hope in your work. You thought, man, I got my career at my dream job, my dream company. I'm working so hard. I'm going to do something that's going to change the world, or it's going to bring fulfillment to me. And you started working long hours. You started isolating yourself from people. You started flaking and realizing I don't have connections with people anymore because all I'm focused on is my career. And you go, I think I need to get out of this. And you have a meeting with your manager and he gives you an RSU grant. You're like, well, I think I can hang on for a couple more years. And you keep working and slaving away and you realize they keep giving you these grants every year. And you learn that you can't get out. And you look in the mirror and you hate who you've become. Maybe for you, it's the perception that you put out to people. You moved away from the place that you were comfortable with and you said, man, I'm going to use social media to continue to develop these meaningful relationships I have with people here and afar. So you started posting things about yourself, things that you were experiencing, and then somebody gave you a heart. And you began to go, ooh, they love me. They like what I said. And so you begin crafting your posts over and over and over again to put out this portrayal of who you are so you can get engagement, but you really are alone and isolated, and the things that you're posting aren't even yourself anymore, and you look at your feed and you realize that's not who I am, and you hate who you've become. If we're honest with ourselves, we all have something. Personally, for me, it has always been the area of finances. Always. I have chased after finances my whole life. I've always equated that financial security meant ease of life. If I just had enough, it would be okay. So then I become a Christian, and they tell me that one of the greatest spiritual disciplines is giving 10% of your income in the tithe through generosity. And I'm like, yeah, right. You're telling me that if I give 10% of my income, I'm going to have more peace? I'm already stressed out as it is. And I got to the point where I was like, okay, maybe I'm going to do it. So for the last 15 years, I have been giving 15 or 10% of my income to the local church. And let me tell you, it's not like magical unicorns and easy. Every month I go, okay, Lord, here it comes. And I can say that I do have peace. But every single month I feel the tension, the weight of the cost of living in the Bay Area. Trying to stay afloat, I got to pay for cheerleading and hockey and now braces. And we only eat organic and it's got to be wild pasture raised. And I'm like, I don't know how we're going to do it. And then the car needs an oil change. And I'm like, Lord, show up. Do I trust him? See, this happened to me the other day, okay? I used to buy lottery tickets all the time. I always said, if I win, Lord, I'll give it all. I just need like 30, 40, 50 million, enough to fly private. That's all I'm looking for, okay? I go, it was this dream, this reality. And my wife was like, it's an idol. And I'm like, shut up, okay? No, don't tell me that. It's a dream. I'm supporting public schools, okay? She's like, no, you're dreaming about things rather than trusting God. I'm like, get behind me, Satan, you know? So I live in Campbell, and I'm driving down Bascom Avenue. There's a 7-Eleven on my right-hand side. And in every 7-Eleven now, they have the lottery jackpot dollar amounts. It was $1 billion the other day, guys. $1 billion. And I thought, man, cash value, $750 million. Easily, I'll give away $350 million, Lord. It's totally fine. I'll pay my taxes. I'll be good. And I literally sat in the parking lot across from 7-Eleven debating with God. Come on. Just like one time, like I'll totally be the dude you need me to be. I'll still serve the church. I won't like vacation in Tahiti all the time. It's just like twice a year. It's okay. You know, we need our breaks too, you know? And I had this like little semblance of the Holy Spirit just put in my heart. But if you got that, you wouldn't depend on me. You can go buy a ticket, Stephen, or you can trust me. So I begrudgingly put my $5 away, and I drove. And I noticed something in me shift. My desire for all of this finances that will bring wealth and security and all this stuff to me shifted as I acknowledged that I was looking at it merely from an earthly perspective. And when I surrendered it back to God, I was able to see things from his heavenly perspective, which leads us to a moment of reflection. I want you all to ask yourself and probably write this down. What are you chasing after? What are you chasing after? What's that thing that causes you stress every day of your life? That causes you to doubt, that alters your choices, that you are searching for meaning and fulfillment in. What are you chasing after? See, for Solomon, he addresses many of the realities that most of us are living in. And what is his conclusion? In verse 20, he says, I gave up in despair. I began to question the value of my work. Some people work wise, but then they have to leave it all. It's meaningless. It's a great tragedy. So what do I get? Hard work, anxiety, sleepless nights, pain, and grief? It's all meaningless. Now, I just want to point out, these are the words that are coming to us from the richest, wisest, most powerful, influential man on the earth at his time of living. He probably had the most comfortable situation of any human being on the planet, and that's still how he felt. But if we're being honest, it's pretty darn similar to our current situation. In 2025 in the Silicon Valley, we live in the most technologically advanced, wealthy, and comfortable time in human history. You don't even have to go to the grocery store if you don't want to. You can sit on your couch, press a couple buttons, and somebody will deliver it to your door. You don't like laundry? Oh, there's a TaskRabbiter out there for $25 an hour. We'll wash and fold your undies for you, and you don't have to do a thing. But although all these conveniences, these things that come around, we are the most depressed, anxious individuals that have ever walked the earth. Over the last decade, we have had this mental health crisis that has skyrocketed. I want to show you some statistics in the 18 to 24-year-old range. Now, I want a caveat. This is not just plaguing the younger generation. It is, in fact, the exact same or even worse with some of us that are older. Look at this. 1 out of 3 18 to 24-year-olds has some kind of diagnosable mental health disorder. 1 out of 4, 25%, has some kind of anxiety disorder. 1 in 5 has a major depressive episode each and every year. 1 out of 12, or 1 out of 8, 12%, has serious suicidal thoughts. 1 in 3 suffer from alcohol and drug disorders, and 50% of them say they often feel and experience feelings of anxiety, depression, fear, and suicidal thoughts. Does it have to be this way? Is this the reality we just have to settle for? Maybe the whole reason you're here today is you are looking for a ray of light in the midst of a dark season. Your marriage is on the brink of divorce. You can't seem to find a way to have conversations, so you just binge Netflix shows together and numb the pain that you both feel. Maybe for you, you're overwhelmed by the amount of debt in your finances, so you're constantly trying to find the side hustle to help you break out of it, and then you end up spending more and more money on things that satisfy because you can't make enough. Maybe you're here and you're searching for purpose in your career and you can't find it, so you began to quit and look for it in meaningful relationships and interactions. Maybe you're at your school and you feel so lonely and isolated that you've began to search for things in AI and look for a friend that doesn't even exist. These struggles are real. They are a part of life in a fallen world. And unfortunately, we have all been conditioned to think that what we see in our algorithmic feed is some sort of semblance of reality. But it's so false. It's a highlight reel of people's existence. It's what the marketing executive has put together. It's the Sports Center top 10 of people's lives. And we think that we have to measure up to it. But there's so much power in recognizing the struggle. That's why Solomon says, it's all meaningless. Which, if we are on the journey to try to find true fulfillment, the first step that we must take is we have to acknowledge the struggle. We have to. This is why Solomon said over and over and over again, it is meaningless, it is vanity, it is like chasing the wind. He realized a profound truth that the only way for us to escape the constant bombardment of emptiness is with acknowledging that our life is short. It is filled with ups and downs, and there are things beyond our control. We might go to bed tonight and not wake up tomorrow. And when we acknowledge the struggle, we take a step towards quieting the noise and opening ourselves up to the second step in finding true fulfillment. After we have acknowledged the struggle, we must shift our perspective. See, when you acknowledge what's happening in front of you, you pause, you evaluate, and you shift, and you search for truth or meaning beyond your current state of being. It can unlock something inside of you. This is what Solomon journeyed through in the book of Ecclesiastes. He wrestled with the ups and the downs. But even in the midst of the wrestle, he did come to the understanding everything we have is a gift from God. And we should enjoy the moments that are here. Verse 24, he said, I decided there's nothing better to eat food, to drink, to have satisfaction in work, because I realized that these pleasures come from God. This is where so many of us miss the mark. We get stuck in the hamster wheel of our emotions, our ambitions, our feelings, and we think that it's on us to find meaning. But Solomon, in his search for purpose, for meaning, for connection, he knew something was missing. And I can stand up here and I can tell you today, the missing link that Solomon was looking for is Jesus. Jesus is the one who brought purpose, who brought meaning to everything under the sun. His whole ministry was trying to talk to people like you and I and shift our perspective from what we see right here to the kingdom of heaven that was going to come, something beyond our circumstances into a new spot. He shifted perspective. In his most famous sermon that he ever gave, the Sermon on the Mount, he talked about a lot of the things that Solomon talks about. And his primary goal during that message was to help people shift from a self-centered, pessimistic, earthly view to a community-centered, hope-filled, heavenly view. Taking yourself out of the equation. Look at the difference between Solomon and Jesus in the area of labor, okay? Solomon is like, I don't know, they're going to take everything I have and do good by it? It's meaningless anyways. And Jesus calls Solomon out. Why are you worrying about all the things you're working for, your clothing? Look at the lilies of the field and how they grow. They don't work or make their clothing. Yet Solomon, in all of his glory, was not dressed as beautifully as they are. You can work for all of these things and these possessions, but they will be gone tomorrow. Jesus had something to say about money too. Solomon is sad because he has all of this stuff that he has to give away to everyone else. All that he's earned that's his, he has to give it away. But Jesus says, don't store up your treasures here on earth because moths will eat them, rust will destroy them. Somebody can break in and steal, but store your treasures in heaven. Because wherever your treasure is, there the desires of your heart will also be. Some of us have to give our minds back to Jesus because we are stuck thinking about all of the pain and the grief. We go to bed and we cannot rest. It's all meaningless. And Jesus is saying, can you worry enough of your life into another day? No. Not one worry will add a single moment to your life. So don't be so stressed out. Today has enough of its own troubles for today. Like I said earlier, you may not be here tomorrow. And in the area of focus and meaning, Solomon said, I'm just going to enjoy the pleasures I have right here on this earth. This is all about me. I'm going to fill my own tank and I'm going to be happy and I'm going to die. But Jesus is saying, seek the kingdom of God above all else, and he will give you everything you need. Jesus' perspective shift brings clarity to the struggle that so many of us find ourselves in. And unfortunately, the thing that we're chasing forms our identity. The people around us form our identity. Sometimes to shift your perspective, you need to shift your environment. One of the greatest environments to get yourself out of the weekly strive, the weekly struggle, is our encounter night. This Thursday, in this room, you don't have to travel or fight traffic. You can have a shift of your perspective. You can turn your eyes with everyone else back to God and say, God, I got stuck in it again. I was here on Sunday, I felt good, and Monday morning it all changed. Now by Thursday, I need something to renew my strength. So be here. Join in with all of our campuses and see if maybe God might meet you as you shift your perspective. So once we've acknowledged our struggle and shifted our perspective, we have to take the third and most difficult step in finding true fulfillment, is where we need to surrender control. Some of you are like, I don't like that part. Earlier, I asked you to identify, what's that thing that causes you stress? What's that thing you're chasing after? Maybe for you, it's your work, it's your mind, it's your purpose. As I mentioned, for me, it was always the area of finances. Now, I'm a pretty smart guy, I think. And I debated back and forth with God in the area of my finances because I did not want to surrender control. And I said everything under the book. Well, tithing is an Old Testament principle. You know, it was part of the law. And the law has been abolished because of Jesus. And then you actually study it a little bit more and you realize it came before the law ever existed. But then the New Testament church, they gave out of their grace-based understanding of generosity. So they gave way more than 10%. They gave everything. They sold everything they had to care for those who were in need. And then the one time Ananias and Sapphira show up to the leaders of the church and lied about it, even though they were able to give it, they dropped dead on the spot. And I realized, okay, I'm good with 10%. That's good. Okay, thanks, Lord. But like 10% is that like figurative? Is that before tax? Is that after tax? Like, do RSU grants count on that? Is it after I pay my rent? Like, what are the things that I should be doing, Lord? But you know what? I also serve at the church, Lord. So I give my tithe through my service, my generosity. I'm so generous here in my heart. And like, the reality is like, what a cop-out. Like, what a loser that you are thinking that that's how it works. Like, you know what, Lord? What if I give my finances to the church and they're not good stewards of the money? Well, then don't go to this church. Like, if you can't trust the leadership that you're sitting under to preach the word of God to you, you shouldn't go to this church. I will just say it declaringly. If you don't feel comfortable tithing here, I will give you a list of 30 other churches that you can go to with great pastors who are probably smarter than me. Okay? And my wife looked at me, she goes, you just need to trust him. I don't want to. I want control. Well, shut up and give. And for the last 15 years, I have had to fight that muscle. Every time I feel like I need to hold this, I go, ooh, who should I give it to? I'm not perfect in it. I was searching Bitcoin last night trying to see if that was the path to wealth of the future and going like, maybe if I invest in there, I could give a little to the hope offering later. Like, I don't know. Like, and then Jesus' words hit me. In Matthew chapter 6, verse 24, no one can serve two masters. For you will hate one and love the other. You will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and be enslaved to money. So, Stephen, shut up and be obedient. And as your pastor, if this is your struggle, I want to let you know I get it. Maybe you gave and then you got hurt and you stopped giving, or the credit card that you had it associated with stopped and you said, somebody else will do it. I don't want you to miss out. Choose him. Get back in the game. If it's in the area of serving, then serve. If it's in the area of having purpose with your work, if it's in the area of joining a team, if it's in the area of something else, just don't hold back, because you will never find true fulfillment in the thing that you're chasing unless you put Jesus in the center of it. I struggle every month, but I can tell you I've never had to go without. Ever. There are so many moments where I have wondered, are we going to make it? And a check shows up. Lord, I don't know if I could give to another missionary above the tithe. And then it's like, here's a raise. Or, oh my gosh, you got a bonus. Or, oh my gosh, how many times have I seen him show up in my life when I was vulnerable about my struggle? Because when you acknowledge the struggle, you shift your perspective, you surrender control, you have the opportunity to step into true and lasting fulfillment. Solomon, at the end of his book, came to see this. Look at what he says in Ecclesiastes chapter 12. He says, here now is my final conclusion. Fear God and obey his commands, for this is everyone's duty. For God will judge us for everything we do, including every secret thing, whether good or bad. The reality is, we will never find true and lasting fulfillment without Jesus at the center of our lives. The whole gospel presentation is the acknowledgement of your sin, your wrongdoings, your stepping outside of God's will, and saying, Jesus, I have not done it according to your book. I've let my pride influence me. I've drifted from you, and I'm acknowledging that I have missed the mark. But I am turning, I'm shifting my perspective. I'm repenting from the things that I think are right, and I'm trading them in for you, and I am surrendering every part of who I am to you. Whether it's your first time recognizing that Jesus did come down, he did live a perfect life, he did die and raise from the dead, and today you want to surrender to him, you will experience fulfillment only if you keep him at the center. For others, the thing that you are chasing has become the center and Jesus has become the second. Put him back in his rightful place and see what happens in your life. Could you imagine if we actually did this? If we actually decided, I'm no longer going to cop out. I'm going to go all in on Jesus. I'm no longer going to allow my social media feed or my political affiliation to be the thing that drives me. Jesus and his word is the thing I'm anchoring on. Our entire community would change. Our families would be different. Our homes would be different. Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile would have way less data coming from us because we would put down our phones and we would pick up our Bibles. And sometimes it's really hard to see how do I go from where I'm at to where I want to be? The beauty is across our 3,000 people at this church, every once in a while we get to see how somebody else found fulfillment. When they acknowledged what was missing, they shifted their perspective and they surrendered control back to him. I want you to check out a family who was changed by doing all three of these things from our North San Jose campus. Check this out.
Sammy is one of my very best friends, very dependable, loyal, and someone you can always count on and trust, especially with your kids.
You know what animal this is. What is it?
A lot of parents, they are afraid to release the kids to me, but I always comfort and say they will be okay. It will always gonna be tough the first couple of times, but eventually, they're gonna want to come here, and that's my goal for them to come here. We teach in here, we do the worshiping, and we have activity in here as well too for the kids.
Sammy was invited back in 2018 to one of our mutual friends' baptism. And so she came, and we kept trying to invite her to come back. And I knew that something was happening inside of her because she started asking a lot of questions.
So I grew up in a very strong Buddhist family. My parents actually gave me to the monk to actually learn how to chant as well too, right? So growing up, I know that there's God. I know there's God, but I just don't know who God is.
I do remember one day, in the middle of service, she dismissed herself to the bathroom, came out. I knew something happened because she came out red-faced in tears, and I just knew in my heart that she was surrendering that day.
Sitting there and listening to the message, something stirred inside my heart. It got me a little bit emotional, but I couldn't really understand what it was. But it was enough for me to actually say yes to come and check it out again the next time that I got invited.
So when Sammy first started coming to church, she would come by herself, and she would serve first with her two daughters.
I love being nurturing to all those kids and just helping them learn more about God.
So her and her two daughters will serve. We could not get her husband to serve until one day I think she lost her volunteer, and it was just her and her two girls at one point, and it was just too hard. So she asked her husband if he could help.
November is when I got baptized. In December, Sammy talked to me about joining the Kids Echo ministry, and January is when I took the leap of faith and become part of the kids ministry.
I'm actually able to impact them, and then I want to use this opportunity to also, again, introduce God to them as well too. And at the same time, believe it or not, it was also helping me because here I am trying to figure out who God is as well too. I was also fairly new, but God has his way of placing you in a place for you to know him, but at the same time to also serve his people as well too.
They know all the kids by their names, and they show love.
Sunday, I felt like whatever happened to me in my weekday, I found my answer. I found my peace. I found my hope on Sunday. And that's what kept me coming every single Sunday, is that hope, that peace, and I pray that everyone actually be able to have that in their life.